Miles Brent sighed to himself as he laid on the hard floor. This whole situation had him all but helpless, and after the initial panic, rage, and the entire emotional gauntlet that followed, he had grown pensive and considerate. Now his mind was running cold instead of hot, and he thought and recalled. The situation is easily summarized. He was one of the basic janitors that was being brought along for first contact. Technically second, but first face-to-face contact with alien life. Turns out that Earth and the entire solar system is smack dab inside some hellish patch of space that the Star Trek nerds had gotten everyone calling a negative space wedgie. Mostly because there seem to be about 1 million different names for it, usually about 50 per alien language. So may as well start giving it a few of our own. Now what's the wedgie do? It completely screws up almost every law of physics needed for FTL and most of the basic ship systems required. Artificial gravity? The wedgie says no. Efficient life support? Wedgie no likey. Proper astrogation? With the wedgie you can't even trust your own eyes. Apparently the CRME du la CRME of the wedge's effect is the ozone layer, which the other races call a naturally developed planetary disruption field. Rare in the galaxy and has all the effects of the rest of the wedgie concentrated and wrapped around our little blue ball of a planet, making the advanced technology needed extra impossible. About 3 years ago, the alien equivalent of the United Nations had managed to get a probe to Earth and start up contact with a very primitive AI that had been manually decoupled until a basic clockwork timer had plugged it in. They did this because their laws stated that anyone lost in anything like a wedgie was owed at least a rescue attempt by law, and that law had recently been bent in such a way that we counted. Anyways, the AI program, it was the alien equivalent of Reader Rabbit or some other child education game designed to help create specialized ships to get out of the wedgie. First problem was that trying to get anything with the engines needed for crude FTL through the ozone layer made a really, really big bang. We'd been warned about this from the program, so that first flight had been unmanned just to see how big a bang it would be. Most of the people that looked at it directly needed experimental optical surgery to see again. People like me that saw it through a recording were blinking spots out of their eyes for hours to come. Still, it was really neat to see a double-sided mushroom cloud. To cut out more of the bullshit, we built the thing in space, developed slingshot railguns with the help of the AI tech to throw things into orbit to cut down on cost. The way down still has a doozy of a first step though. Then came manning the big clunky beast of a ship. The program stated that for proper first contact they wanted a large variety of every type of human around, so a lottery went out to each and every major population center and I signed up. I got lucky and they gave me my training. I'm called a janitor, but I'm also trained as a mechanic, soldier, and diplomat to some extent. A few friends I made during basic had joked that if we were separated or got bored we had everything we needed to start our own rebellion on an alien world. Considering we were in gunsmithing class at the time, I had to agree. My role on the ship was to sit on my hands and hope to never need to come off M. The Dauntless has thousands like me. Each one trained well enough to take over for an actual engineer, soldier, or diplomat. Though to be fair, the diplomatic training was mostly a crash course in the standard trade language that we didn't pass until we could go through an entire day being monitored without speaking anything but galactic trade. After that there was required reading on numerous political texts with some final grade essays and 1,000-question quizzes that you had to get 90% or get sent for remedial training. Which I had to do. Twice. Things had gone well at first. The Dauntless held up well, and the experimental technology, as well as the old standbys we were already familiar with, kept us safe and sound through the wedgie. Then we broke through the edge and the ship nearly plowed through an observation post. After that slight debacle, we began to straight up sail through the cosmos as we brought the separate pieces of the advanced equipment together, and the entire ship went from a gravity-less pain in the ass into a comparative luxury hotel with warp drives. We soared among our fellows for the first time. The scuttlebutt on the ship said that most of the aliens speaking to us through the comms not only looked humanish, but also gorgeous. Babes for days. Star Trek had gotten something else right. Then the pirates hit. Turns out that Galactic UN was just as useless as Earth UN, no standing army of its own and no official power. A massive advisory board with their heads up their asses and hoovering up the taxes. The escorts were basically the Salvation Army, and their own laws hadn't given them permission to teach us about weapons and armor. Our ship was basically a giant flying piece of armor due to the ablative plating needed for the wedgie, and we had snuck aboard a lot of missiles, guns, and torpedoes for our own paranoia. But when a battle fleet of raiders a few hundred strong drop on top of you, it really doesn't matter how much metal you've got or how much bigger you are, they're gonna get at least a few drops of blood. Which leads to me. One of those few drops. My military training had given me the option of specialization, and I'd picked sniping. The idea of getting to play with one of the big guns that can still be used for something other than a war crime had appealed to me. The training where I had to shoot the thing with pinpoint accuracy while balancing a fucking coin on the gun was annoying as hell though. This meant that when the boarding torpedoes that hit the Dauntless started puking out giant metal beasties, I quickly put my baby together, loaded up my favorite caliber of fuck you, and took just the right amount of time I needed to completely ruin a pirate's day. The hallways turned it all into a turkey shoot. Their weapons were effective for about 10 meters, and a range that short against my gun was just insulting. I managed to get about a dozen shots off, 3 confirmed as kills and the rest opening the idiots up for those with more close-range weaponry. The shotgun boys really had fun with face-to-face, and the grenadiers were pissy that they couldn't use their babies in the ship. Standard troopers had a standard good time, basic bitches. That's when the second volley of torpedoes came and opened up the wall to my immediate right. It bounced me off the one opposite, and by the time I could put 2 thoughts together, I only had time enough to look some energy weapon right down the shaft and eat a face full of electricity. I woke up in this tiny cube with a reinforced door worthy of a bulkhead and cooled but not cold air. The vents are reinforced, magnetically sealed too, meaning I can't rip them out, on top of the fact that I'm clearly being watched. I'd patted myself down to check for what I had been left with, my clothes, which include a Kevlar weaved undervest, my steel-toed boots with hidden knives, and that's about it. They'd taken my baby, my sidearm, backup revolver, and the few grenades I had on me. It's the revolver that's pissing me off. That gun had been a gift from my father. Despite his divorce with Mom being bad, he still had the names of my entire immediate family burned into the wooden grip. A way to hold my family close even light years away, all around a cheesy but sweet gesture. I'm going to get my chance to escape soon, and when it comes I have to be ready. When I get tired of lying around and waiting for something to happen, I sit up with my legs crossed. Sort of. During the combat training they drilled us on some weird Eastern way of sitting that lets you rise up fast and stay solid the whole time. A neat trick, but the unarmed combat part of training had been really lacking for favor of guns, vehicle combat, and the sheer time limits of getting the project off the ground. The wait isn't much longer, just long enough to make me really wish there was a toilet regardless of the camera. As I'm contemplating pissing in the corner, the door opens, and the first thing I see is the same sort of sparking taser rifle that tagged me before. So they're not here for bullshit. That's just as useful as being sloppy. Someone sloppy you can get around easily. Someone paranoid you can drive insane. I slowly rise up, examining the armor up close for the first time. It's either a powerful and well-made robot or power armor. Bulky and angular, the thing has no obvious weaknesses from the front. Maybe the head part, shooting it with a sniper rifle, had disabled if not killed the others. The guns, if shot, end up overloading and paralyzing these things, meaning they're not shielded against their own weapons, opening them up for all sorts of fun. A bit of a mistake, really. It's painted mostly dark red with patches of black that have skulls and crossbones for some godforsaken reason. There's what looks like a score tallied across the left side of its chest. A chest that likely contains some kind of missile port or the big guns for the way it sticks out. Come. Now. It orders in a mechanical monotone, taking a step back and not giving me a chance. I step out, staring right at its head. At least I assume the chunk on the top with a glowing red sensor line is where the head is. Or at least where whatever is controlling this thing is seeing me from. A sensor line surrounded by reflective material, meaning I've got a sort of plan. There's another of the big stompy mitts with another sparky taser gun. It turns away from me and begins to move as the first one gestures for me to start moving with its weapon. I spot what looks like handholds in the back of the departing armor and can see a few seams either for repair or to get a pilot in or out. It can still go either way, but I'm leaning more towards these things being piloted. I look over my shoulder and pay close attention to the reflection in the mech sensor. I keep pace with wherever they're marching me to as I give them the best lazy eye I can. It takes only a few moments before the weapon is raised at me, but I refuse to react. Just keep pace and keep glaring. Stop staring over your shoulder at me. The mech pilot orders. This easily confirms that there's someone either in there or remote controlling it. A machine would take a lot longer to freak unless you had a weird AI in control. In response, I turn around and start walking backwards, not missing a step and not losing pace. With both my eyes digging holes through the suit's sensors, I can almost feel the pilot start to sweat. Whatever they expected out of me, this was not it. Good. Stop it. The pilot orders, and I slowly shake my head. Stop it. They order again. Are they really cracking this fast? I double the glare as best I can. If I was in a cartoon, my eyes would be stretching out of my head. Stop it. They scream so loudly I can hear it through the suit itself and the speaker. There's a woman in there. The gun starts to spark and I slide to the side. The blast of electricity hits the other mech and I throw myself forward to power slide between its legs before turning around and climbing up the back with the handholds. The topmost one has a button in it and it unlatches the panels in the back. No! The woman piloting the mech screeches in protest, flailing around and ripping the panel off the wall. My grip isn't all that good, and the moment the shock wears off I'm dead, so I kick off and dash into the opening rather than fight a battle I'm slowly losing. My time in engineering training taught me what these are: a maintenance hallway. FTL-capable ships need a lot of wires and tubes going around for all the little systems that need to fire off perfectly. So many, in fact, that all the walls are pressed in by anywhere from a few feet to a few meters, usually a few meters. This one is a meters version, and I have room to dash down the maintenance hallway. I reach the small bulkhead with ladder that goes up and down the levels, and quickly get myself down an entire segment of the ship. I seal it after me to buy a few more moments. Okay, now I'm in the guts of the place. I just need a map and a bathroom, and then I can really start raising hell. Thankfully, the bathrooms in this place are borderline human standard, a bit big with enough legroom in the tub to qualify as a swimming pool, but otherwise standard. Thank God for that. 0G toilets are uncomfortable and annoying. A vacuum up to your butt or dick when you're not in the mood to fool around is just weird. Getting into and out of the maintenance hallways is easy when you figure out the particular ship's latches and such. I get in good and quick and rush towards a nearby ladder as I hear a big stompy mech show up at the bathroom I was just at, and I get up to the next level. There's the slam of the panel into the maintenance hallway and some fast movement, and I know I was spotted going up. So I go back down and rush ahead. After all, if they think you're up, go down. If they think you're down, go left. I give them a trail more akin to the Gordian knot than anything else for about an hour before calming down and leaning out to try and find some place with either weapons or a map of some kind, before ducking back in to do so again elsewhere. A few hours of poking around and avoiding patrols here and there, and I find myself near the front of the ship. Science fiction would tell me that this is where the helm and such is located. On the Dauntless, it's actually in the middle of the ship and behind so much armor that you have to shear away most of the vessel before actually getting to the command crew, life support, or engine controls. After a short time, I find one of the alien women going at a communicator under her breath as she activates it. I crack open the panel and get a glance in. It's some kind of quadrupedal dog woman. I don't know how better to explain it. It's like someone took a dog and tried to make a porn star out of it, but never bothered to get her to stand upright and only seriously feminized the face rather than replace it. The alien is still covered in fur, but is also in what seems to a patchwork business suit. A bandana keeps her absurdly long blonde hair out of her face as she sits down like a dog and adjusts her massive mane. Also, she's huge. If she stood upright, she'd be maybe 9 feet tall and ridiculously proportioned by any stretch of the imagination. There are discolorations and small straight lines through her gray fur. Possible scars? I crouch down low with my right boot knife held ready. Just in case. Hello, Captain Lilpaw. I take it from your expression that the raid didn't go as expected? Another woman's voice asks on the opposite end. This is getting ridiculous. The first 2 or 3 encounters being female only was odd, but not really worth notice. Having nothing but female encounters with the official first contact over communications, the pirates that took him and now their sponsor? Where are the males? No, the ship was unexpectedly armed on top of the absurd armor needed for cruel space. The humans use kinetic and explosive weaponry with an obsessive fervor. Captain Lilpaw answers with her entire frame drooping. Oh, that was unfair. Having a woman that looks like a puppy and a porn star at the same time as my enemy is a low blow. What about boarding parties? The sponsor asks. I can't see the screen past Lilpaw's enormous chest. If I wasn't planning on killing her, then this situation would be out of a particularly depraved porno. We're only missing the badly hidden zipper on the alien outfit for me to be Dick Nova, alien penetrator. Everyone on that wretched ship was armed to the teeth. The fatality rating was over 90%. They reacted so fast, they were so well armed. The humans aren't here for peace. Their ship is military, elite military too. We only managed to get one, and the crazy beast is running rampant on my ship as we speak, taking an almost sadistic pleasure in confounding my hunters. I see, and the rumors? Are they really? The sponsor asks, trailing off. Male? Yes. Almost every single skin we have and every picture we got during the failed raid was of a man. Even better, the one we captured is a man as well. A cute one. It took a lot of threats and even a few injuries before I had him thrown into a cell rather than dragged into some woman's bunk. Okay, so we have some product for the meat market. Tell me, how close to being in season do you think he is? So there's slave trade? Fuck. Well, damn. I really need my guns now, or maybe hers if it's not DNA encoded or something. The male thing I put aside for later. He's in season right now. That's why I had to break a few limbs to get him into a cell unarmed but untouched. The sheer smell of him still has my head spinning. He's so deep in season that half the crew are trying to follow their noses, and to make it worse, he's not stupid and is using the maintenance tunnels like a personal playground. How did he get out? We were transporting him to a film studio so we could get some good shots for a sale when he freaked out one of the guards enough to get her to shoot at him with her stun cannon. He dodged the zero-range shot, which hit the other guard and then slipped between her legs before climbing onto the back of her armor and trying to get and giving the girl a panic attack. Then he vanished. By the time she came to her senses, she saw that she accidentally tore open a maintenance panel and he was gone. Surely you have some idea where he went. We got a hint of him when a refresher was used about 5 decks away from his original cell, and a glimpse was caught of him by a patrol woman who had been heading to that one anyways. She saw him going up, but he tripped a sensor 3 decks down before deciding to bounce from one end of the ship to the other like a child's toy launched out of a railgun. No escape pods have been launched, all shuttles are accounted for, and every weapon and suit is power-locked, but he's vanished. The only comfort is that he hasn't gotten away because his people are still talking about rescuing him through the bug we planted. Lilpaw rants in frustration before rubbing a paw down her mane, panting a little as she does. I narrow my eyes at this revelation. They've got a bug on the Dauntless? Something else to look into. Well, he's a typical male at least. Stuck in a pirate ship, and the first thing he does is make sure he looks his best. The sponsor says with a slight chuckle, causing Lilpaw to laugh. I trust the ship is locked down, so you've got him pinned in? Yes. Every pod is keyed to our weapon keys, and the shuttles need not only a weapon key but a password to activate now. He's not going anywhere but in front of the cameras, then to a customer that will be giving up a planetary ransom for the first human slave on the market. She says before taking in a gulp of air and fidgeting. "What is the matter with you, Captain? Pressure getting to your furred head?" The sponsor demands, implying that she herself is not furred. I have no idea if that narrows things down a little or a lot. It's his pheromones. He must have passed by my cabin. She starts panting a bit before moaning. It's powerful stuff. He's in the peak of his season. How he can even move is a miracle. She groans out and I blink in confusion. Do they think that pitching a tent somehow stops me from doing anything? Good, that just raises his price. Catch him and get him in front of the cameras. Then we can sell him as unique untouched goods. After that you can ride him as you please as recompense. The travel times alone to anyone's private collection will give him time enough to come out of season so no one's missing anything. Thank you. Catch another 10 or so and I'll even let you keep one. Fresh faces on the slave market sell well, and I can be very generous to those who get me products like that. The obvious brains behind this raid says to her muscle. Not that I can afford to underestimate Lil Paw here. For all I know, the second the call ends, she'll pounce on me through the wall panel. And with the way my luck is going, these broads likely eat their mates after breaking the pelvis. No way of knowing one way or the other, but I need a good look at the boss lady that Lil Paw has started some suck-up ritual towards. Luckily, there are a lot of reinforced pipes right behind me. No electricity running through them, and they're very well secured. Thankfully, they can take my weight as I climb up them and lean out to look through the slight gap as best I can. It's not enough, so I crack it open a hair further. The boss of this pirate captain is in a properly formal suit and has the camera set at an angle that's giving me one hell of an upskirt shot. It's clearly designed to make her look towering even on the small screen. I'm uncertain if her skin is pitch black or if she's got a really dark shade of some sort of fine fur. She's also got glowing markings on each cheek, bright yellow to match her glowing eyes. I'm not sure if they're natural or artificial, but it's a clue. Her proportions are just as backbreakingly absurd as Lil Paw's, if not more so. A human woman with those kind of proportions would be a freak of nature and barely able to stand upright without mechanical assistance. Any time on a trampoline would snap her back in half. I wonder if that could be used as some sort of torture implement against these aliens? I shake my head and refocus. She either has a strange hat on or her species has long ears stretching upwards with more bright yellow glowing markings near the tips. There's a cat-like demeanor to her beyond the clearly female portions and clear rabbit ears, if they're ears. Very female, as I can tell the woman clearly wears a size or two too small for her undergarments. The suit is shockingly normal looking in creamy off-white, miniskirt, jacket, button-up and a crimson tie. Strange things to be universal, but there you go. No earrings or jewelry I can see beyond a bright silver or maybe platinum ring on her left middle finger. A wedding band? A status symbol? A vanity? I need more information. High-heeled shoes in glossy red, another oddity, and I think I can see the outline of some kind of hidden weapon tucked in on each side of her jacket. Either that or the bra she's got on is as literal as the term industrial strength can get. It would have to be for those oversized melons. Best I can tell, this band of raiders is sponsored by a CEO of some company or another, so she can pocket extra profit and likely lean on her competitors and maybe even kill troublemakers in her own company. Shit, I'm in some kind of action movie, aren't I? Now the question is, am I the hero, the cannon fodder, or the hostage? It can go any which way, to be honest. I'm dealing with the equivalent of an insurance company whose head hires out a biker gang to make sure that his premium is bought then never used. Plus slave trading on the side just to be extra evil. Hot alien chick or not, I'm putting a bullet in her. The call is cut off through Lil Paul's fawning, and she bats aside the screen before reaching down and moaning out loud. I keep quiet as I slip down, sheath my knife and slowly open the panel even as the alien woman pleasures herself into a puddle. So these aliens are weak to pheromones? Even the small amount of sweating I've been doing in this light cardio workout's been enough to reduce this woman into a moaning heap. I quickly case the room the moment I stick my head out. There's what looks like a computer terminal nearby with what looks like a small 3D printer or replication machine right next to it, and lucky for me, Lil Paw keeping herself busy and facing the wall opposite. Good enough. I slip into the room, completely inaudible over the sounds the woman is making. I do my best to ignore the absurd distraction as I activate the computer and smile. No password and no fingerprints or anything. It must work off proximity to her chip if it has any protections at all. And considering I'm maybe 2 of her body lengths away from the woman, it counts it as her accessing things. I turn off any volume and set things to text only. It's in galactic trade, which is good and easy. It's one of those languages that are easy to master but hard to learn. Once you've got its rules and most of the sounds down, you can slam your way through anything spoken or written on context. Ship outline. It's vaguely rectangle-shaped with a wedge at the front with 2 large chunks full of engines in the back and a bunch of laser banks on both the top and bottom. A Jules-class interceptor it's called. The registry has it as the Claw, and it's got a clear purpose to get in fast, hit hard, and get out before there's much hit back. From what I'm reading of its boarding torpedo tubes and comparatively weak armor and shields supports the frame's in and out philosophy. This thing is mean and quick. Basically what my kind would call a Corvette. A flying sucker punch. Internals of the ship has this placed near the bow. Apparently, I'm a few rooms away from the helm. Good to know. There are several armories, but no indication where my weapons are. That's annoying. The captain seems to get her second wind in self-satisfaction, and I turn to shoot her a dirty look for a moment. Damn woman, have some self-respect. A bit more poking into weapons and administration, and I smile widely. So the small divot in the wall next to the computer isn't a replicator or printer, it's a universal installer for access chips. With the captain blaring approval mentally due to her fun times, I have full access that lets me make an account of equal authority. One just for me. It's set up quickly, then I use the approval from my account and hers to first make it so that we cannot override each other's decisions, then use the unending approval from her to help me make a new highest rank on the ship for myself with full override power. Now I just need to put my hand in the panel. A beam of light basically teleports the thing into the middle of my palm before the machine lets out a chime. Welcome, Commander. The ship says in a deep male voice, and I freeze. The room is dead silent. There's movement. Don't. I say, holding up a finger but not moving otherwise. This throws her off her game. Don't what? How did you get in here? Why did it call you Commander? Lil Paw demands. I'm not doing that whole turn around and behold the monster bullshit. Go back to your fun. Now. I order, pointing down now, still haven't turned. Monster? An alien creature that kidnapped me and is planning on selling me into slavery and likely a gruesome death on the torture table of some sick lunatic sounds pretty monstrous to me. I reply, watching her from the reflection off the screen. She's pacing and possibly distressed. How this species evolved to the point of sentiency is beyond me. She's too bulky, and if she tried to crouch down, she'd crush her breasts. Hey, wait. Care to answer a question? I'll return the favor, Captain Lil Paw. I say, and she freezes. You know my name? She asks in a somewhat stunned tone. I won't count that, but yes. I do. I say, watching the reflection. She's completely still, but for her tail, it wagged when I said I knew her name. If she's like an earth dog in any respect, then I just gave her an endorphin rush. What's your question? What's with your proportions? They're appealing, but they'd get you killed by predators evolution-wise. Or is cosmetic surgery common? What? No. We have to bulk up like this. It shows we not only have all the meat a mate could want, but are ready to bear children. In lean times we slim down a lot, but with advanced farming and ranching most girls are always ready. That implies it's the females that seek mates out? I ask in a slightly shocked tone. Well, yeah. Isn't that normal? You only need one male to keep a small village pregnant and reproducing if he's in season. Doesn't it work like that with your kind? It can, but the males compete with each other for the females. Now, what's your actual question? I ask, turning around to face her as I cover the computer monitor. A few taps to turn it off and somewhat hide all the research I made. I need to make a dash and I need to see her all the better. Her tail starts really wagging at the sight of the tent. Is that for? I mean, what proportion of your kind is male? 1 per 100 is normal? 2 per 100? 3 per 100? She asks, her voice getting lower and more salacious with her every iteration. 100 per 100. I answer and she goes still. What? Her tone is utter disbelief. Equal chance of male or female at conception. I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. I answer and her eyes go comically wide. An entire world of hunks trapped in the middle of cruel space. The galaxy is a complete and utter sadist. She pants, tensing up and shuddering. She takes a deep breath to steady herself, but apparently my pheromones are just that much of a whammy as she wobbles and pants. I take this time to casually walk over to the maintenance panel, open it up and walk back in. Hey! Wait! She protests as I close the door and move off. I rush past a bulkhead and close it behind me before listening. She thinks I went up. A reasonable assumption. I start walking away casually as I consider things. I now have full authority in the ship that can't be superseded by anything. Unless they've got some solid hackers on board, likely, then they can't keep me in or out of anywhere. But more importantly, the nature of her questions not only tells me why I've been taken prisoner, but also that if I was made of solid gold and left a trail of flawless diamonds as I went, I still wouldn't be half as actually valuable as I am. They won't risk anything damaging the merchandise. The stun cannons are likely as heavy and hard as they'll go. Now I have a plan. Time to get to work then. Captain Lilpaw rushed through her ship, gathering as many of her pirates as possible. After the failed attack on the human vessel, they were down by a full quarter of their numbers. How many dead and how many captured was unknown. But policy was that there were no jailbreaks for those stupid enough to be caught, and only 1 in 10 had gotten out. With the overpowered pheromones of their only prize burning out of her system, she had been able to clear her head enough to take a suppressant. Then she had made a ship-wide announcement to make sure everyone had the lust blocker in their system. Just a few minutes of marinating in his scent had nearly driven her insane and given him enough time to hack into the systems. His price tag was going up, and if he was the type to escape, he might even be a repeating investment. After all, catching a runaway slave and keeping everything hush-hush is good money. Especially if his pheromones have an addictive quality beyond basic bonding, they'll be able to name a price each recapture, not to mention the original sale. At first they tracked his fancy new key chip, and then he'd caught wise and got to another terminal. He was off the grid now, and they had to scour the ship from end to end. To make matters worse, he would play merry havoc with all the ship systems the moment he got near another terminal, which was getting more and more frequent. What few computer technicians she had were locked out of the system in such a way that if they were within 10 meters of a terminal, they would automatically deactivate. Then anyone she sent near a terminal would cause it to power down. The moment the power went up again, it started its shutdown sequence if any of their chips were nearby. That was both impressive and infuriating. She'd have to beat how he did it out of him once she was done beating the wretch for what he did to her in her own quarters. Embarrassing her in front of their main meal ticket. It was bad enough that she had to suck up to the self-important slag, but doing it while going insane from lust. She would take his next 20 children from him and make sure to raise each and every one to hate his guts. Captain? Jean Gay, one of her helm officers, asks on the open channel. The limbless communications officer was more than a little typecast for her species, but good at her job. What is it, Jean Gay? Any sign of the prisoner? Not yet, but our allied vessel is coming in. I didn't know you had some secret friends to help out, but they'll be a relief. What allied vessel? She demands as her blood runs cold. This enormous one, a battleship. You explained it to me via text so that the prisoner couldn't listen in. You idiot. How far off is the ship? We need to get out of here on maximum burn yesterday. They've already engaged the docking clamps. Jean Gay mutters in shame. And they're so big that if you try to accelerate out of the grip, you'll rip this ship apart. I win. Also, I have my guns back. The prisoner chimes up over the onboard comms. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I've been listening in for a while and know you won't be getting away. I've got complete control. Also, you people don't check near the engines anywhere near enough. I practically set up a base camp down there. He mocks them even as the entire vessel shudders. Also, I've turned off your weaponry. Having them all controlled through a central component gives them an easy method of attack and sabotage. Also, your mechs are powering down. Damn you! She screams out in frustration before the sound of the airlock's manual overrides being activated echoes. Captain, what do we do? Well, I, as commander, suggest you surrender and be ready to talk. My kind believe in redemption and clemency, meaning that if you play nice with the arresting officers, you get a lighter sentence, not to mention I personally see opportunity here, and I think the Admiral will too. One you will like almost as much as he and I will. What kind of opportunity? She asks, trying to find any kind of way out of this mess, and he chuckles. I'd like to clear it with the Admiral first. Don't want to unreasonably get your hopes up. Anyways, play nice with the army of heavily armed and thoroughly unamused men, and they'll play nice right back. He offers, then the nearby maintenance panel opens. Okay? He asks with a big smile. Hey. Don't try it. He says, stepping out fully with a small weapon at the ready. The deactivated electrical cannons are useless in their hands, but sheer reflex caused them to bring them up. I've got 11 hollow points in here. Each one will tear apart your internals, and energy shields do nothing. These are kinetic. He says before pulling something off his belt. And this is a grenade, a chemical explosive that wreaks absolute havoc and death in these close quarters. I activate this and we all die. A few moments pass and the airlock opens entirely. Contacts. We have our man here. A black-clad and armored man shouts out. The former prisoner lowers his weapon. Are you injured? Negative. I have subverted the enemy vessel and have both a great deal of information and need to speak with the Admiral. We have a flashpoint possibility. He says, and the soldier nods. Use my radio. The soldier invites, not taking his aim away from the small search group. The other one sheaths his weapon and grenade before walking up to his fellow. Be gentle with them, we have an interesting opportunity here. The former prisoner says, grabbing a device off the shoulder of the soldier. This is Miles Brent, code Sierra, Tango, Alpha, 00228, confirm. He states into the device and there's a burst of static. Code confirmed, good to have you back, soldier. Report to medical, please. I'm going, but I need to speak with the Admiral as soon as possible. In person, we have an opportunity here and it would behoove us not to miss it. He says into the device before it gives another burst of static. Confirmed. Get moving, he'll see you there. The person on the other side orders him. On my way. He replies before tucking the device back into the shoulder strap, then moving out. All right then, ladies. Nice and slow. Otherwise, we start putting holes in people. The soldier says before forcing them out and through a reinforced hallway and into a large cargo chamber with numerous ship-grade weapons pointed at them. The entirety of her crew is marched in, including a surprising number of the boarding crew she thought lost. They're dripping with desire and barely able to move properly. The entire ship really is full of men, isn't it? No questions. No interrogations, no nothing. Then, after a long enough time for the lust suppressant to start to break down, the pheromones in the air makes everyone start to squirm, and not just the returned boarding crew. Then the door opens and a small crowd files in. Was this time to put them all at disadvantage? At the front is a man in a formal uniform with graying hair and a harsh glare. His presence is one of intimidation and strict brutality, the sort of thing from those schlocky movies where societies of warrior men were found. Or perhaps one had been found in cruel space. Captain Agenda Lilpaw? The high-ranking human asks, and she nods. I am Admiral Garfield Cistern, leader of this endeavor. Your ship and crew are at my mercy. He states plainly, and she glares at him. A mercy that you will be able to take full advantage of. Now she's intrigued. As my soldier commander Brent has pointed out to me, I have need of additional ships, further crew, and local intelligence, particularly of the unsavory parts of the galaxy and less than legal societies. Right now my species has everything in one oversized troop transport. That's not good enough. Wait, is he trying to recruit her? To this end, I want to sponsor your group of miscreants as privateers. To that end you will willingly share all information with us. We will openly deny that we have anything in common, but in secret we will be giving you supplies, and our ships will only fire upon yours if we are under the observation of other entities. We'll also be missing a great deal in such circumstances. Admiral Cistern explains, and Lilpaw's jaw has dropped. She regains her composure and gives out a huff. And what exactly will you be wanting of me and my crew? I don't have a problem with a sponsor to keep us flying, but what do we lose? There will be 10 of my men on your ship with veto power. If they say a certain target isn't to be hit, then it's left alone. We also get first refusal of loot you capture, meaning you come to us first to sell whatever you steal. We will pay in full, don't you worry. This also means a guaranteed market for you girls. Finally, we will be sharing information and will occasionally require special missions from you. You will be paid richly for those missions, and we'll be using the commanders we station on your ship as our liaisons between you and us. You want to talk to us, you talk to one of them. We want to talk to you, then we talk to one of them. And what's stopping us from just flying off with everything you're about to give me and never hearing from us again? Because if we don't get a monthly report from them with the proper code phrases, then we will hunt you down and hurl every member of your crew into the nearest star before using your ship and a few puppets, designed to resemble you in order to do the raiding, spying, and assassination ourselves. Servitude or death, what a wonderful choice. Captain Lilpaw growls out with her hackles rising. Behaving like you actually have standards and prospering, or throwing away any semblance of being anything more than an animal and dying. The Admiral counters, and she huffs. The commanders you will be putting on my ship. What authority do I have over them? It's my ship. I know it. I run it. I put my blood into making it run as well as it does. She demands, and the Admiral sniffs. Do not think me unaware of the unusual gender divide in the galaxy. These men are volunteers already tested so that they won't start a plague if they perform the duty you're no doubt thinking of now. Really? She asks in a doubtful tone. Yes, really, we've also gotten the preliminary tests out of the way. There is risk of pregnancy if you overindulge. The Admiral remarks, and some of the men behind him look away somewhat as if embarrassed. Finally, a normal reaction from these crazy humans. That's not a risk, that's a prize. Captain Lilpaw all but purrs. So they are a standard race, one with a weird gender ratio, but that's just a good thing. Still, confirmation they're clean, fertile, and capable makes the temptation run really, really high. That one. The one we caught then brought you upon us. I want him. She says, pointing to her former captive with a leer. The man, rather than flinching back, raises an eyebrow and smirks. Captain, this is his idea, he says before glancing back at the suddenly bashful-looking soldier. You learn things you never wanted to about your men with the things they sign up for. The Admiral says before looking back to Captain Lilpaw. His information is also what gives you your first mission. Oh? What did he see that pissed him off enough to make him want to sick her entire crew on them? Commander Brent will give you the details. This first assignment is non-negotiable. Furthermore, you must sign this if you are to be one of ours. He says, and is handed a briefcase by Brent that he opens up and lays between them. This is a contract with your writ of piracy. Basically, if any other human vessel somehow or for some reason catches you and yours, you can show them this and be released. So even if I'm replaced, you will have this. Admiral Sistern explains, and she picks up the paper. It's to the point legal talk, but solid looking. If this has some hidden clause or whatever, then I'm counting the whole thing as a trap and letting the galaxy know you're sponsoring pirates. She says with her eyes narrowed, and he nods. Understood. The Admiral says calmly before she goes back to the paper. It seems on the up and up. Straightforward and legit. He's also effectively giving her hostages. What's the first thing you want out of me? She asks plainly. It's the deal breaker. What do you want? We want you to turn on your sponsor that was looking to have you kidnap and sell our people. We want her kidnapped from her home and handed to our interrogators. We want her business raided and its assets stolen. Take everything not nailed down and pry up what is. Burn the rest and fly cackling into the night. We'll pay premium prices on everything in return, and you get to name the price for the sponsor. He explains, and her jaw drops. What's the catch? We have less than an hour to get everything into your ship and settled, and we're not starting till you sign the contract. He says, and she focuses hard. A very fast skimming of the contract, and she signs her name on it. He signs his name as well and then closes the case to hand it to her. My men are yours, Captain. Glad to have you aboard. The Admiral says, saluting her before turning around. Move out, men. I want that ship loaded and prepped 20 minutes ago. Go, go, go. He roars, and the 10 men behind him rush away along with a huge number of crewmen. What are you putting on my ship? Captain Lilpaw demands, and the Admiral turns to her. 2 months' worth of food supplies, 3 weeks of fuel in solid state and 2 in liquid, the materials and tools to make a gunsmithing laboratory so that my men can maintain and improve their weaponry. Even produce more if it's requested of them. They will also be moving on their personal effects and the extra training materials we're having them complete. Extra training? Make no mistake. All 10 are excellent combatants. The training they underwent had a 95% failure ratio over 2.5 years, and each of them got through. However, the training was about local languages and combat as well as ship navigation and maintenance. They can destroy enemy positions and will raise unimaginable havoc to the enemy if given half a chance. Yes, the one we caught proved that right. Miles Brent passed by the slimmest of margins. Right at the line of failure, I and the other examiners personally saw him as the sort to finish all of his jobs, even if it meant he was leaving chunks of himself behind. He's one of the weakest links on our ship, but a laudably stubborn son of a bitch. Regardless, a pass is a pass. He, along with the others, will be learning about leadership, logistics, and everything we know about diplomacy and galactic politics, as well as several lessons from our own age of piracy. These 10 will not be a burden to your crew, and if they prove to be a burden, contact me and they will be replaced. I see. What about shore leave and such? Keeping specific crew members on board every time tends to lead to sabotage. Captain Lilpaw says, and he nods. The story we'll use is that you seduced them and will disavow them as criminals officially. So sure, take them out and show them off if you want to. The Admiral says. They're giving up everything for this crazy plan. Lilpaw suddenly realizes. Almost. There's a way back, but it won't be ready for years. It'll take a solid 5 years at minimum. Likely 10 to 20. 5 years of absolute loyalty. With up to 20 before they have anywhere to go. Draft boards don't get a quarter that from their recruits. Captain Lilpaw says before smirking. 5 years to seduce those men as much as I want. Perfect. She mutters before glancing around. The hell are you all doing sitting on your hands? Get back to the ship. We've got ourselves loot to take and a bitch to deliver to our new friends here. We go where the money is. Spin up the engines, power the shields, and get the bafflers going. We got a raid up ahead. Her orders roar out and her entire crew break out of the trance that her conversation with the Admiral had lulled them into, and they scramble, flap, skitter, and slither as appropriate back to the airlock. They're a bottleneck that makes her snort a little, but it quickly sorts itself out as she slinks calmly back onto familiar deck plating. Her ship is blasting with activity, and a nearby terminal tells her a little something. All 10 of her newest recruits are in a previously unused storage room, working on something feverishly. Apparently Brent is extremely quick on the uptake and already chipped all the others. Up 2 levels and a quarter of the way down the ship, the door opens and she walks inside to see 8 of them setting up several different machines as the last 2 are going around and bolting the machines to the floor. Captain on deck. One of them shouts and all the activity stops, and she gets a smart salute from each and every one of them. She scoffs, appreciative but scornful of such things. She doesn't walk far in, her head is already starting to swim from the scent of all these fertile and virile males so close together. All for her and her crew. It's inevitable not to drool. This is a pirate ship. I don't want salutes, I want results. She says, and all of them but that freaking Brent rush back to work. Fair enough, Captain, I hope you don't mind if I'm the one giving explanations. He says, and she grins salaciously. Oh, don't worry, you'll be giving me a lot of explanations come tonight. But I want to know what kind of mess you're setting up in my storage room. She says, and he nods before taking a stance with his feet shoulder-width apart and his hand clasped behind his back. This is a gunsmithing workshop and laboratory. We will be creating long-ranged kinetic weaponry in here as well as experiment to create better models and custom models for the many different crew members. This is also where we will be manufacturing the ammunition and performing maintenance on damaged weapons. We have a 3D printer for plastic part manufacture. We're also setting up a multi-bit drill, a metal press, a lathe for metal and wood, a belt sander, and a grinder. We also have a bullet press and a small chemical workstation. Finally, we'll be making a lot of use out of the foundry and scrap recycling chambers on this deck. I see. What can you start handing out first? Easiest and the fastest is to use the 3D printer and plastic. The weapons come out more fragile than a metal one but can be produced in huge quantities quickly. Brent answers and she nods at the thought. We can start now if you want cheap handguns. Proper rifles are too powerful and forget about a plastic shotgun. However, we can pump out standard handguns roughly at a rate of 1 every half hour. He says, and she must have let her confusion show. This is a handgun. He says, drawing out a weapon from a holster hidden under his left armpit. It's held easily in a singular hand. He flicks a switch and holds it out to her. Metal? She asks, taking it and examining the weapon for a moment before handing it back. It makes a more enduring weapon. It will require regular maintenance and cleaning as opposed to a plastic one that after a short time will warp and begin to misfire. Brent explains as he tucks the weapon away again. So it's like a stealth plasma caster compared to a multi-plasma caster and a long-range caster, I assume? It sounds like handgun to automatic to rifle. We'll be making all of those. Good. Now, Captain? Jean Gay asks through the comms above her. Talk. She orders. We're ready to head out. We need you up here. The comms officer says, and she nods. All right then, gentlemen, carry on. I'll be assigning you all bunks shortly. Just get this done. Mealtime is in 4 standard hours. Yes, ma'am. They call out as one and Brent gives her another salute. She just shakes her head as she walks off. The moment the door closes, she lets out a huge breath and shudders. Oh boy. If they're willing, then half my crew is getting gravid in short order, a prize beyond any amount of simple resources. 10 males on the vessel. An embarrassment of riches. She mutters to herself before shaking herself to clear her thoughts and then making for the helm at a fast lope.